What's up everyone? My name is Luke and this is my 2004 T1N Sprinter van. Today I'm going to be giving you a quick walkthrough of the build, what I like and don't like about it, and what I plan to change in the upcoming few months. Here we go, let's jump into it. I got this Sprinter van about 2 years ago. I'm planning on redoing it pretty soon here, but I'd like to sort of go over the van, what I like about it, what I plan on changing. So starting with the exterior, before I jump into that, just give a quick overview of where this van came from. So like I said, it's an 04 T1N. I got it about 2 years ago, mostly built out, but there's a lot of stuff that I've changed on it, and then a ton of stuff that I want to change in the upcoming future, which is why I'm doing this video. So with that said, starting out with the exterior, first thing you'll notice is the upgraded wheels. So these are the BF Goodrich KO2s, Baja Edition. This is widely known in the van community. They're awesome wheels, or tires I should say. They kick, like, go off-road with this thing, and I've never had a problem. Been in snowstorms and on some pretty hairy fire roads, and they hold true. I should mention that this is only a 2-wheel drive Sprinter van, not a 4x4, and it performed super well. To be honest, I wouldn't even want the 4x4 just because you get better mileage with the rear wheel drive. So moving on to the front of the van, you'll notice the aftermarket bi-xenon headlights. These are an upgrade that Million Mile Sprinter used to sell. I don't think he sells them anymore, but these are really good upgrade. You can actually see at night with these. Next, you'll notice the off-road bumper, which is completely unnecessary, but I thought it was a super good addition to the van. I welded this up with a buddy. It's by Coastal Off-Road. They sell it as a DIY kit, and so you weld it yourself. Weighs about 80 pounds, mounts to the chassis of the vehicle. There's a section underneath here that mounts the chassis, and it's just, for me, it's deer insurance over anything. I'm pretty paranoid when it comes to deer, so this gives me sort of the reassurance that I can drive at night in the woods and not worry about hitting a deer or anything like that. Plus it looks badass. So next you'll see these ditch lights. These are like $30 eBay ditch lights, and they're not that glamorous. I know there's the Baja Designs ones that are like 200 bucks or something a pop. These are way more inexpensive. They do the job. They're super bright, and I have them angled so I can see the ditches as I'm driving down the road at night. Super helpful. I should mention that I did custom make these brackets just in a machine shop. They're just bent sheet metal, painted them, but yeah, they've served me well. This is, like I said, an 04. I got it about 2 years ago, partially built up, and I've been upgrading it over the past 2 years, here and there, changing a few things, what I like and don't like. And now I have a plan to redo a lot of the interior portion. I did recently bed liner the bottom half of the van. So if you look at the center seam, you'll notice that the bottom down is all bed liner. There was some rust spots on the van when I got it, and I basically just grinded those down, treated the rust, and bed lined it over it. It's been great. I've had a few spots that have sort of come through that I got to redo here, but the bed liner, would highly recommend that. So a few more things I'll say about the exterior. If you're planning on getting a van and you want to put a ton of weight in it and take it off-road, I would highly recommend you upgrade the suspension. I feel like that's a big overlooked area, along with the tires. Tires are huge, like I mentioned before. So the fronts I've upgraded with Coney struts, which have been game changer. And then for the rear end, I upgraded to Sumo springs that replace the bump stops. Those are huge. When you're basically, they improve your quality of driving over bumps and stuff. They keep the van from sort of wobbling side to side and sort of undulating. So those are huge. And then I've also upgraded to the Van Compass Falcon monotube shocks in the rear as well. And those have also been a huge upgrade. They just make it so the van is a lot more maneuverable and drivable, you know, even around town, things like that, but especially off-road. Okay, so jump into the interior. I'll open this door for you. We'll start with the front. So starting with the seat covers, these are by Weticole. They're super nice seat covers. You can get them custom made. They're neoprene, so they're waterproof, and they got a nice layer of foam underneath. They're super comfortable and they keep the seats in good condition. Next, the sound system's been upgraded. I didn't do that, the previous owner did, but I did take out this wall and add in a box for the speaker there. Aftermarket sound system is clutch in these T1Ns. I think the stock sound system's pretty awful. So next, you'll notice I did a few things up here. Obviously this is for the ditch lights, so that's that switch. The next thing you'll notice is this switch. This van comes stock with a hydronic block heater, and you can use that in the winter to sort of heat up the engine, but this switch is not included. It's actually used with this function here. You just click this and it'll kick it on and it'll help heat up the engine when it's really cold. But what this switch does, this is on the forums, I believe. If you install this, it's what it does is it kicks on the hydronic heater without the engine being running, and you can do this when it's super cold out and you need to cold start the diesel engine. Engine's not hot. It'll heat it up to operating temperature before you even run, before you even start the engine. So it heats up the coolant line. So it's got a coolant loop that runs down there, and then it pumps coolant through the block and gets the block up to temperature. And is super clutch in the winter when it's cold and you don't want to cold start the engine. You know, cold starting diesels is super hard on the engine, and sometimes it can, you can't get it started because it's so cold. But that totally is a game changer, and I would highly recommend getting one of these if you've got a Mercedes Sprinter van, not even the T1Ns, you know. The newer ones, I think they come stock with these. All right, and then lastly, and you guys are probably wondering what this is. This is our dog perch that I made for our dog, Oliver. He's a big golden retriever, and he's a pretty heavy dog. He's about 90 pounds. We wanted him to be able to look out the window, so we built this, wrapped it into some non-slip vinyl. It's basically just a wooden perch thing made of 2x4s and finished in vinyl. It's got these nice hinges on here so you can open this up and access stuff underneath. It's been super clutch. So now jump into the rear of the van. First thing you'll notice when you open up the van is the fridge. This is, you know, for quick access after you've done with a hike or, you know, trail ride, whatever have you. Easy access to the beer. So you'll notice most of this interior is like carpet walls and pretty minimalistic, bare bones. Most of this was done by the previous owner. I've sort of just been rocking it and, you know, seeing how I like it and what I like to change in the next build. So jumping over here, this is one of the things I installed kind of recently. It's a Lagoon swivel table, and you can swing this out here, have yourself a little bar stand, you know, when you're chilling outside, or it's a table inside for somebody sitting on this jackknife sofa, or it's a workstation. All right, so here's the kitchen. Pretty simple, pretty practical. So starting out with the sink here, full of dishes, as it should not be. We've got the nice gooseneck faucet here. It's super nice. I've got this on electric pump. So you've got nice water, fresh water coming out of there. I just got a 5-gallon clean and gray water tank there for quick access. Got a pretty simple Eureka propane stove here, which is bolted onto this IKEA kitchenette here. It's got 2 burners, super nice to use. It's got the, you know, the push button sparker there. Got the propane under here. light there just to see what you're cooking, and a little spice rack right there to put some miscellaneous stuff. All right, so then for storage, got some storage space up here for throwing some miscellaneous stuff. Definitely want to keep this on the next build, just make it a little bit bigger. And then a whole bunch of storage up here. Pretty minimalistic. There's basically just this wire to hold everything in. You know, you can throw whatever up here. Usually throw food stuff. Occasionally some stuff will fall off because, you know, it's not super contained. So that's definitely something I want to fix in the next build. Do some actual overhead cabinets that are solid. The other thing you'll notice in here is I've got a whole lot of hooks. So I was going on trips with friends in this van, and they were saying that there just wasn't a lot of place to put things. So I bought like 10 or so hooks and hung them up everywhere. So now you can hang all sorts of things everywhere. I've got some bike helmets over here, some more bike stuff. Next over here, this is basically the control center. They're literally just two controls. One is for the diesel heater, the other is to monitor the batteries in the rear, and this other one is just the temperature. You'll notice there's a big friggin' sofa right here. So this is a jackknife sofa. So what that means is it basically just folds out into a bed. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. Voila. You've got sleeping for a short person or somebody who wants to curl up. All right, so underneath the jackknife sofa, we've got 300 amp hours of battery that powers the diesel heater, and the sink back here, diesel heater. That thing is great. It's just a simple Chinese diesel heater, 2 kW, pumps out a lot of heat and works great in the winter. I've got a port down here that the air comes out, and then I've also got a Y connector in there, and I've routed another port up to the bed area, which is right there, and I've actually got an attachment piece to adjust the flow up there. Also under here, some miscellaneous storage. I've just got an external stove, some tools and stuff. Over here I've got a nice table that I keep tucked away for, you know, just putting random stuff on when I need it. Up here is the bed. It's a full-size bed. Super comfortable. I think I've got 3 inches of memory foam on here on top of 6-inch mattress. So super comfy. The other thing you'll notice, it's a bit messy up here, but there are windows on both sides. These are just reflectix for, you know, blocking out sun. I've got a net up here just to keep random stuff in it, and the windows do open up so you can get a nice breeze over you when you sleep. There's a little platform on each side just to put stuff. There's also an overhead light over there, which is super nice. All right, so a couple last things about the interior space I'd like to mention. For one, it's only about 6 feet or so of height in here, and I am 6'5", almost 6'6", so it's a little bit hard to stand. So one of the things I plan on doing is adding a giant skylight dome to the top of this to give me an extra 5 inches of headspace. So that's one of the things I'd like to do. The other thing I'd like to mention is the flooring. So right now the stock floor is in here. You'll notice the nice ugly brown floor with this mat on here. Super practical, but in the winter it gets pretty cold, and the thing kind of sucks to stand on with bare feet. So that's definitely something I'm going to be doing, is changing up the floor. And then one of the last things you'll notice, there's a max air fan in here. This is super clutch, and anybody that's building out a van, you should have one of these. You can just blast air when you're cooking, or you know, when you want to sleep and you want to get a nice breeze over your face. This is super clutch. Another thing I wanted to mention, I've got this carbon monoxide sensor in here. Everybody should have this in your van. You know, if you're going to be cooking and you've got propane or diesel, definitely have one of these in there. yeah, you want to be safe. The other thing is I do have a fire extinguisher back there, sort of tucked away. It's still accessible. You definitely want to have one of those accessible because you don't want to burn down your van in an accidental grease fire or something like that. So definitely have one of those. Before we jump to the back, I wanted to show y'all. I do have a swivel seat in here. I'll show you that now. I actually designed this table so that you can flip that up. Swivel seat. You have to adjust it just a hair. So you go ahead and enjoy chilling in the swivel seat. One other thing I will mention, the battery setup in this is kind of weird. I sort of already showed you guys the 300 amp hours in the back. I do have 100 amp hours up front and an 1000 watt inverter there, powered off of that 100 amp hour battery. That battery also powers the block heater, so that comes in super clutch during the winter. I did install this bug net. Built this or made this with a buddy of mine who's a master sower. He's got an industrial grade sower. They're selling these online for like 300 bucks, and decided to make one myself and save some money. Spent probably close to 80 bucks on this for an Amazon bug net and the canvas, and then my buddy had the zippers and whatnot. But this thing is super clutch. Keeps most of the bugs out. Takes a little while to stretch out after it's been wound up like that, but just goes under the weather stripping, and then you sort of cut it flush. Super clutch in the summer when the bugs are out and about. But now we'll jump to the back. And this here is the garage. First of all, you'll notice I've got a bike in here. You can fit 2 full-size bikes. I've got ski storage there where the tiki torches are, and then plenty of room for random miscellaneous stuff. Got a big old tool chest in here. I keep a bunch of tools in there, and there's storage for all sorts of things. I will say these bike storage mounts are clutch, but I think on the upcoming build I definitely want to add in slide out storage for 2 different bikes, maybe more. Alright, so that was tour of the Sprinter van. There's plenty of stuff I want to do to it in the future here. Definitely going to be gutting it out here pretty soon and adding in new flooring, and then redoing the layout. Adding in Skylight, I mentioned that earlier in the video, and doing a whole bunch of other things. Definitely want to add solar and fix the electrical setup, get that dialed. So yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.